So greeting everyone. Welcome to the 178th session of the online Optom Learning Series, OOLS. And those of you who have joined us very recently, OOLS sessions are accredited by various organizations such as the Optometry Council of India, the Integrated Philippine Association of Optometrists, the Philippine Society of Public Health and Occupational Optometry, Optometry Vietnam, and also the Malaysian Optical Council. So those who are attending the talk from these regions, you can claim your CPD points or your CE credits towards your accreditation and towards getting your license. We are also very happy and fortunate to receive education support from SEG University Online and also from Cooper Vision for today's session. Please be reminded that we are going to share a Google Form link. This Google Form link will be shared at the end of the session. And once you fill up the Google Form, which is also a feedback and a short quiz, that will help us to prepare your e-certificates and send you within the next couple of weeks of time. So without further ado, let me welcome our speaker for today. Today we have Dr. Ariel Cerenzie. Dr. Ariel practices full scope of optometry at a private practice in North Carolina. Her passion includes all shapes and sizes of contact lenses. She does a lot of myopia management, dry eye treatment, and management as well. In addition to patient's care, she is also very well published in many journals such as the Contact Lens Spectrum, the Review of Myopia Management, and also the Review of Optometry. She's also been an invited speaker nationwide and also internationally on specialty topics such as specialty contact lenses, myopia management, and dry eye management as well. She holds a fellowship from the American Academy of Optometry and also a fellowship from the Scleral Lens Education Society. And today she's going to take us through a very interesting and a very thought-provoking topic, I must say, is daily disposable lenses. Now the market, I think, is booming up. A lot of companies do have daily disposable modality lenses in various materials as well. So she's just going to take us through the science, the benefits, and how do we go about prescribing these lenses. So welcome, ma'am, onto our platform. Thank you so much first of all, for joining us on the Sunday morning, leaving your family quite away and doing the talk for us. And, let me just leave the screen time to you.
Okay, well, thank you so much for the kind introduction. I'm really happy to be here, and a big thank you to you and OOLS for having me, and for those of you attending today. I'm excited to get started. So we are going to discuss daily disposable contact lenses, and I think most of us pretty much know that daily disposables are a healthier option compared to reusable contact lenses. But when you really start to look at the science of those health benefits, it really is pretty alarming to what extent they offer health benefits. So in this talk today, we're going to talk about some of that science, talk about some of the benefits, and then also how can we talk to patients about daily disposables and help them understand that they may be a better option for long-term ocular health. Go to my next slide here. There we go. So this is my little family and I. We have a little girl named Sophie. She is 1 now, and then we have 2 little pups, and then we have 1 on the way. So we'll have another little girl come December. So we're super excited. So in this presentation today, this is kind of the roadmap of what we're going to discuss. The first is prescribing patterns and how they've changed over time, the advantages, and then also some of the disadvantages that come with daily disposables, some of the technology that may be available in the future, and what we have available for us now. Sci-High versus hydrogel. When we think about prescribing daily disposables, does it really matter what kind of material we prescribe? And then lastly, we'll go over some practice management pearls. So daily disposables were first introduced in the mid-1990s. And since that time, we've seen a shift from prescribing more of a reusable wearing for a longer period of time, to more frequent replacement. So this is an international perspective of how prescribers have been prescribing contact lenses. And as you can see, over the course of about 20 years, prescribing rates of daily disposables have increased from around 19% in 2011 to around 46% in 2021. So you can just kind of see along the other, 1 to 2 week modalities, monthly and 3 to 6 months, as they've become a little bit less popular over time. And part of that reason is because as manufacturers continue to invest in being more efficient with their production, that drives costs down for them and ultimately for us and for the consumer. There has been just so much advances in technology in terms of the parameters that are available, as well as, different wetting characteristics, contact lenses that are made for folks that are, using a lot of digital devices, need dry eye help, etc. So this is a website called OD Specs, and it gives us a look at what type of contact lenses we have available in the daily disposable realm, as well as some of their parameter options. So their powers, their base curves, diameters, the wetting technology, their DK, and you can just see that we have just such a great variety of daily disposables that are available in the market. Now, I would say that probably the most innovative technology in the daily disposable world has been the MiSight daily disposable lens that controls myopia progression in children. And this truly changed the way that we practice our standard of care for young myopic children. And it really falls in line with the World Council of Optometry's call to action for all of us eye care practitioners to adopt myopia control as the standard of care for our young myopic children. And the data behind this lens is just so amazing. They did such a great job making this lens. And it works by having these concentric rings of the light purple would be whatever the power of myopia the child has to help them be able to see. And then the dark purple is going to create that myopic defocus to bring that hyperopic defocus that is thought to stimulate the growth of the eye forward to slow the growth of that abnormal axial elongation of the eye. And their data was very profound. So this is the data that looks at axial length over the 7-year period of the study time. So if you look on the x-axis, you can see the study time in months. On the y-axis is the change in axial length. Our orange line is the untreated or the control group. These patients were prescribed ProClear one day, and then the ones in the purple were the MiSight group. So over a 3-year period, the patients or participants that were in the MiSight lens, over a 3-year period, their refractive error was slowed by 59% compared to those that were in the control. Their axial length was slowed by 52%. So that's pretty profound data to be able to look at when we think about that from a 3-year perspective, but also as we project longer into the child's life, because we know that children tend to progress with their myopia for longer than just 3 years at a time, but sometimes 6, sometimes 10 years, depending on how young they are when the myopia starts. So after that 3-month time, it was deemed unethical to continue to have a control group because of how great of an impact we were seeing with the MiSight lens. So the control group was switched over to the MiSight lens. You can see that the growth changes of the eye slowed significantly and started to align with the MiSight treatment group. Over a 6-year period, the participants that were in MiSight for all 6 years, on average, changed by less than 1 diopter the entire time, which is remarkable. I can think of multiple kids that I've seen in the last couple of weeks that have not yet done myopia management, maybe because they're new to the practice, or maybe because I just couldn't, help them understand the benefits of it. And they progress by 3/4 of a diopter in a year. So over a course of 6 years is pretty remarkable. The last phase, that part 3, they took all of the participants out of the MiSight lens to assess for a rebound and found no rebound. This lens was also tolerated very well in terms of comfort, handling, and vision. So let's go on to talk about some of the advantages that Daily Disposables have over some of the reusable options. So we'll go over each of these in detail. So we'll discuss convenience, the fact that we don't have to use multi-purpose solutions anymore, which is not only helps with our convenience, but there's also some health implications that can occur with multi-purpose solutions, which really I was very surprised by the extent of it when I really dived into the research. Also, concerns with COVID and overall hygiene, contact lens discomfort, better vision with Daily Disposables, and seeing improved compliance from our patients with Daily Disposables. So we live in a world right now where everything really is at our fingertips. We can, if we just want to buy a product and don't want to go to a store to find it, we can get 2-day delivery delivered right at our door. In the States, if you wanted to find a ride somewhere and you don't have to flag down a taxi anymore, you can just get an Uber or a Lyft within minutes at your doorstep. Same thing with our food. If we didn't want to go out and buy something, you can just have somebody deliver it right to your door. So we really live in a world where convenience is king, and different companies that have understood that are thriving in our current environment. So contact lenses really shouldn't be any different. Daily Disposables really offer the ultimate convenience by having minimal maintenance. You wash your hands, you put the contact lenses in, you wash your hands, you take your contact lenses out, and then you throw the contact lenses away. It doesn't get any easier than that. Daily Disposables can help meet the current demands of our pretty demanding lifestyle. We're up 14, 15 hours a day. Good portion of that is on digital devices, and we need contact lenses that can help our eyes feel good throughout the longevity of our day. When it comes to traveling, how nice is it to just take a strip of lenses that you need versus taking your multi-purpose solution and your one contact lens that you hope doesn't tear or get lost. Making sure that your solutions are okay with the security requirements at the airport. So it's just a lot more convenient when you're going to travel somewhere. And then lastly, no more visits to the contact lens solution aisle. When I see that aisle, when I'm at the grocery store, sometimes I just take a peruse and just experience what my patients may experience. And it really is pretty overwhelming, all of the options that are available. And that's one less trip that you have to make at the grocery store. So this is a big one, and we'll really go into depth into multi-purpose solutions. So multi-purpose solutions, the intent of multi-purpose solutions is to keep our contact lenses safe for wear. So in them are biocides, and they come in two forms, either in disinfectants, which act quickly, or preservatives that act over a longer period of time to make sure that we're maintaining low enough levels, safe levels of microbial contamination within our contact lens case. So the purpose of these biocides is to decrease the overall concentration of things like acanthamoeba, fungus, viruses, and bacteria. Some of the top biocides that you may see in multi-purpose solutions are PHMB, or polyhexamethylene biguanide, polyquaterium or polyquad, Aldox, and alexidine. And pretty much any multi-purpose solution bottle that you pick up, or even artificial tears, you can see some of these preservatives or biocides in them. To some of you, alexidine might sound familiar because it was associated with a Fusarium keratitis outbreak in a multi-purpose solution. It was found that it was actually because of the lubricant within that solution that the fusarium was able to survive and ultimately cause these infections in patients' eyes. But Alexidine was also previously used in mouthwashes as well, which I found was pretty interesting. So each of these biocides have different molecular sizes, hydrostatic forces, ionic properties, and they interact with contact lenses in various ways. So depending on if you have a silicone hydrogel lens or a hydrogel lens, and what the specific properties of those polymers are within those lenses, we often see that these preservatives start to absorb within the matrix of those lenses, and at varying levels depending on the combinations of them. And as they absorb within the contact lens, what happens is as that contact lens is worn throughout the day, these preservatives start to slowly release into the eye over time. And that is where we start to see some of the toxic effects of those biocides on the ocular surface. So it's been found through numerous studies that you can look at that a lot of these biocides disturb the homeostasis of our ocular surface. They cause cytotoxicity to our epithelial cells in the cornea. And by doing these things, it can actually make our cornea vulnerable to pathogens by weakening this barrier that really is our protective mechanism against inflammatory and infectious events in the eye. When these occur, oftentimes we can see corneal staining, and we can also see inflammatory sequelae of the ocular surface and measurements such as looking at tear osmolarity. We can see that tear osmolarity often increases with some combinations of multi-purpose solutions and contact lens materials. So this was a particular study that looked at 3 different types of contact lenses, Pure Vision, O2 Optics, and AccuView Oasis. So what they did was they exposed each of these contact lenses for 24 hours with the various solutions that you can see color-coded there. After a 2-hour period and after a 4-hour period, they took those contact lenses off and assessed for micropunctate staining. So let's take a look at the Pure Vision lens. When the Pure Vision lens was soaked in Renew Multi Plus, a Walmart multi-purpose solution, OptiFree Replenish, and then Aquify, you can see that there were some pretty significant staining scores. So we could see the staining on the y-axis there. I mean, we got up to 70, basically like 75% at 2 hours. And that's concerning, right? Because corneal staining means that these cells are stressed and they're not healthy, and it's in response to a cleaning agent that we're using for our contact lenses. When you look at some of the other combinations of O2 Optics and AccuView Oasis, we see a pretty different response where there is still some staining, but not a significant amount. So it really varies on what type of contact lens solution that you use, with what type of contact lens material you use, that may affect the uptake of some of the agents in these multi-purpose solutions and ultimately cause staining and disruption to the corneal epithelium. So PHMB is one of the biocides that's studied quite a bit, and it has a relatively large molecular weight, about 1,500 to 2,000, and a really strong cationic charge. And it readily absorbs into lens matrices and releases into the eye over time, particularly in group 2 and 4 lenses. And in fact, in group 4 lenses, 60% of PHMB is depleted within the contact lens. When that contact lens is in the case, disinfecting over time, 60% of that PHMB goes into the contact lens. So that's a concern, because if the PHMB, which is supposed to be killing these microbes, is instead inside the matrix of the contact lens, it may decrease its disinfection efficacy. Also, we saw in the previous study that it can contribute to corneal staining and some contact lens discomfort. But the study later discussed that as they looked at corneal staining, the more corneal staining that they saw didn't necessarily correlate with contact lens discomfort. So there was a concern that PHMB might actually contribute to decreased corneal sensitivity as well, which can also be a concern, right? If you have an infection that's impending in the eye, you need to be able to know, the patient needs to be able to know that their eyes are uncomfortable and that they need to see a eye care practitioner to be started on an antibiotic before, what might just be some simple infiltrates turns into something more dangerous and sight-threatening for the eye. Polyquat is another commonly used preservative that we see in multi-purpose solutions. It's a lot larger than PHMB. It's a 7,000 molecular weight. It still does have a strong cationic charge, but we see that it is absorbed less into the contact lens matrix compared to PHMB and some of the other preservatives. And that might be because it's a larger molecular weight. And it could also be because some of the formulas that are available also use things like aldox or citrate, which can kind of balance out that cationic charge that polyquat has. In this study, they compared the polyhexanide systems, so something like the PHMB systems and polyquat, and they found that polyquat was much better tolerated compared to the polyhexanide solutions, and that the polyhexanide solutions actually caused exfoliation of the top 2 to 3 layers of the corneal epithelium when at high concentrations. This study concluded that all multi-purpose solutions have the potential to have adverse effects on the eye and therefore contribute to contact lens dropout from having things like discomfort, red eyes, but differences exist among multi-purpose solutions. This one was really interesting. They looked at 2 contact lens materials, Lotrifilcon A and Balafilcon A, and they first soaked these lenses in a multi-purpose solution. The multi-purpose solutions that were used were either OptiFree Express, Renew, or Complete Moisture Plus. So the OptiFree Express and Renew, those are both borate buffered multi-purpose solutions, and Complete is a phosphate-based multi-purpose solution. So each of these materials, they were all bathed in these 3 types of multi-purpose solutions. And then they also had a control with phosphate buffered saline. So the saline just had the phosphate buffer in it, compared to the multi-purpose solutions that were phosphate based. They had all of their other, preservatives, surfactants, wetting agents, everything else that goes into a multi-purpose solution. And similarly, to have a control for our borate-based multi-purpose solutions, there was a borate buffered saline that was used as the control. So the first thing that they looked at was the cellular viability, and these are human corneal epithelial cells that were assessed. And if you can look at where it says number 1, this is the OptiFree Express in both the Balafilcon A lens and the Lotrifilcon A lens. And you can see that the cellular viability of this particular epithelium was significantly impacted from this multi-purpose solution compared to the control. And then when you look at the one next to it, that is the Renew multi-purpose solution. Their cellular viability is significantly impacted there. And these are our borate-based multi-purpose solutions. But when you compare it to number 5 here, which is just borate buffered saline, you see that the cellular viability really isn't as impacted compared to our multi-purpose solutions. In fact, it was the least affected in terms of cellular viability and health. So we know that it's not just the buffering agent that's impacting cellular viability, but all of these other chemicals and additives that are in the multi-purpose solutions that play a role. Another thing that was looked at in the same study was the integrins that we have within our corneas. So if we take it back to, and all of the students that are on here probably could teach this better than I could, but we have these integrins in the epithelial cells that help maintain cell-to-cell junctions, the epithelial's relationship with the basement membrane. So they're very important to maintain the integrity of our corneal epithelium. And in response to some of these multi-purpose solutions, they found a significant reduction in how many integrins we were observing in the epithelium. And that suggests that there was a disruption with the cell-to-cell relationship and the epithelium to basement membrane adhesion. So this makes the corneas vulnerable to infection and inflammation. And this is kind of busy, but what we're really focusing on here is the caspase activation. So you can see that there's 3 different categories. We have the renew category, which is preserved with PHMB, and the borate buffer, the complete multi-purpose solution, which with PHMD, phosphate buffer. And then on the very right, we have our OptiFree Express with polyquad preservative and the borate buffer. So caspases, those are what we see in response to apoptosis of cells. So basically cells dying. And if you have 2 up arrows, as we can see on the right there, that shows a significant increase compared to the control. So in the Lotrifilcon A lens, there was a significant increase in caspase activation. So cells actually dying in response to this multi-purpose solution combination. So what do we take away from this? We're not going to go run and look at studies on, okay, I'm going to prescribe the silicone hydrogel lens. It's this specific material. What solution can I use that's going to have the best health outcome for the patients? Well, it's impossible to really know because they all have such, varied responses to one another. They chemically react with each other very differently depending on what kind of silicone hydrogel lens you have, what's included with the preservative. Is there something in that multi-purpose solution that's counteracting the hydrostatic nature of it to absorb within that contact lens? There's just so many variables here. So my point is, and going through all of this, is that it's just a lot more simple to know that if you are prescribing a daily disposable contact lens for a patient, you don't have to worry about any of this mess. They're putting on a contact lens that's been sitting in sterile saline in its packaging. They're putting it on their eye, and you're not having to worry about any of these crazy chemical reactions and disturbance to the homeostasis of the eye with some of these multi-purpose solution and reusable wear combinations. And, like I said, I know I'm kind of really harping on this, but just look at all of these chemicals that are in multi-purpose solutions. I don't recognize half of these from school, so I would just much rather discuss the health benefits of daily disposable wear with patients versus trying to figure out what's going to be the patient's best option. But if you do have to prescribe a reusable lens for whatever reason, maybe that's based off of the patient's prescription or just general parameter availability, you really want to stick with a hydrogen peroxide contact lens solution. Hydrogen peroxide solutions are biocidal to the harmful organic substances that can cause infections in our eyes through oxidative reactions. And those oxidative reactions kill the microbes, and the hydrogen peroxide is subsequently neutralized through a catalyst disc that is either attached to the lens case or included with the lens case. With hydrogen peroxide systems, there are no preservatives, and overall, they've been found to have less corneal staining and subepithelial infiltrates. And in general, we see better compliance with hydrogen peroxide-based systems because the patients are aware that if they're not refilling their solutions with fresh solution every day, that it's not cleaning the contact lens. What about with concerns with the COVID virus? There were a lot of concerns in the beginning about the safety of contact lens wear. And there was no evidence that came out to validate any COVID safety concerns with contact lens wear. And one could argue that contact lenses may actually be safer compared to wearing eyewear, because we know that the COVID virus can stay viable and contagious on hard plastic surfaces for days. So when you're wearing glasses and they kind of fall down your ear, or they're not fitting your face properly, you're touching things in your environment and then manipulating your frames. It would be very difficult to remember to wash your hands every single time before you touch your glasses, right? Versus when you wear contact lenses, you're hopefully not going to be touching your eyes very often, which hopefully your contact lenses are comfortable so you're not. But daily disposables, in general, you can just focus on hand washing versus having to rinse the contact lens, rub the contact lens, put the contact lens in a case, make sure that your case is clean, and all of the other steps that come with reusable wear. In general, daily disposable wearers tend to have less complications, so that translates to having to have a lesser frequency of office visits for any complications that may happen from contact lens wear. And some of the top reasons why patients discontinue contact lenses is because their contact lenses feel uncomfortable, they're dry, their eyes are becoming red and irritated from their contact lenses. Contact lenses are expensive, or maybe they're a hassle. For 4 out of 5 of these things, daily disposables are a great option. And we'll talk about the expense as a potential disadvantage to daily disposables, but we'll also talk about things that we may not necessarily think about where daily disposables are not, a significant cost difference compared to reusables. So contact lens discomfort. Daily disposables in general are found to have less subjective vision fluctuations, less redness, less foreign body sensation, and overall just fewer complications. And some of the discomfort issues may be related to deposits on the cornea, on the contact lens. So we know a lot of deposits on contact lens happen from the contact lens material interacting with some of the components in our tear film, where we get maybe protein deposits, lipid deposits. And as you can imagine, those lead to discomfort as you're having to blink and have more friction over the front surface of that contact lens. It also results in things like the feeling of dryness, and deposits also cause vision fluctuations as well. And for contact lens discomfort, in a particular study that I looked at, nearly a quarter, so it's like 24.5% of patients discontinued contact lens wear because of complaints of discomfort. So we can offer daily disposables as an option for unsatisfied reusable contact lens wearers as an option to get them back into contact lenses. At the conclusion of Dr. Jones's study, they looked at reusable wear contact lenses and daily disposable wear, and they had the same material and same design, but just with the 2 different modalities. And they found that the comfort at the end of the day and dryness ratings were much better with daily disposable wear compared to their reusable counterparts. And it didn't really matter whether the reusable contact lenses were cleaned with multipurpose solutions or hydrogen peroxide. Dryness with daily disposable contact lenses, it was found that there was a decrease in tear osmolarity in the daily disposable wearers compared to those that were wearing reusable contact lenses. And also, we know that having less deposits by having a fresh lens on the eye that doesn't have some of our denatured tear film byproducts on it will result in better comfort and less dryness on the eye as well. Allergies, if you think about all of the environmental contaminants that we have in the environment, sometimes when I sit on my back porch and I look outdoors, if the sun hits just right, it's kind of amazing all of the stuff that's floating around in the air. And you think about that going into your eyes, it just instantly makes you just want to start rubbing your eyes, right? And the matrix of our contact lenses are absorbing all of that throughout the day. So sure, you can clean your contact lenses as well as possible, but how much of that is going to be reintroduced to the eye the following day when you're wearing these lenses? And how much of it's going to be in there day 20? When they looked at study participants that were in reusable wear contact lenses, they with allergies that suffered from allergies, they refit them into daily disposables, and 67% of those participants were actually able to discontinue their anti-allergy medications. Improved vision, we already talked a little bit about this. Having less deposits is going to help with improved vision over time. Just in general, having a fresh contact lens that is the shape that it's intended to be, hydrated like it's supposed to be, is going to allow for better vision as well. And this is particularly advantageous for patients that are toric or multifocal wearers. When we fit a patient into a multifocal, we really need things working with us as much as possible for sometimes these challenging cases. And if I'm going to have a new multifocal fit, I will always fit them into a daily disposable lens unless their prescription does not allow for it, because I want to know that I am going to set myself up for success as much as possible with these types of patients. Compliance, we tend to see that with daily disposable wearers, they're coming in for their annual exams and not telling you that they've had they have like 6 of their monthly lenses left because they've accidentally been stretching them out. It's very easy to remember to replace them every day, versus when you have to remember maybe on the 20th of every month that you need to replace your contact lens. We have so many things going on in our lives. It's really difficult to remember when we need to replace our contact lenses. My dog, he needs, heartworm every month, and I have a hard enough time remembering that. And that's important, right? So you can see how patients would really start to stretch out their wear, whether that be on purpose and most oftentimes on accident with our reusable wear. So we'll go over some of the disadvantages of contact lenses, some of the disadvantage of daily disposable contact lenses. These include the amount of waste that they produce, the expense of them, having just a ton of contact lenses versus having 12 per eye, and then parameter availability. With daily disposable lenses, they do produce about 27% more waste than the reusable counterparts. And this is probably one of the most, the things that I hear the most from patients on why they may not want to do daily disposables is because of the waste. But with daily disposables, though it produces more waste, 100% of that is recyclable. There are programs that are available where you can bring in your contact lenses to be recycled, or you can do it at home with the mechanisms that you have at home to recycle. Bausch & Lomb had a really cool project going on, and I haven't asked an update on where they are this year with it, but one year they built a facility for seeing eye dogs out of recycled contact lens materials. And we have like a Bausch & Lomb bin that patients will bring their contact lenses, the blister packs, for us to recycle. The reason why only 81% of reusable contact lenses are recyclable is not the contact lenses themselves, but actually the multi-purpose solutions that are used. There's different components of the bottle that are not recyclable. Well, what about expense? When you compare an annual supply of daily disposables and an annual supply of monthly contact lenses, yes, when you compare them just like that, they are going to be more expensive. But we have to kind of think about the other expenses that are associated with reusable contact lenses, such as the solutions. So if you are using solutions correctly, according to this dissertation, you should be using about $150 of multi-purpose solutions per year. So take the cost of monthly contact lenses and add $150 on top of that. But also something to consider is that typically daily disposables have a larger rebate if the lenses that you're prescribing offer rebates. For some of the ones that we prescribe, they offer $200 rebates to patients, new or existing. And so now all of a sudden they have $350 of savings that they wouldn't have if they were in a monthly contact lens. So in the end, they end up being pretty comparable. But kind of going back to this, when you break down the cost per day of daily disposable lenses, it really puts it into perspective that, maybe you're spending $2 a day on your contact lens, at probably the worst, if I had to guess. But think about how often we go spend a stupid amount of money on coffee or other things that we just don't really think about. And when patients discuss cost with me, I'll walk them through the contact lens, rebate, how much money they're spending on solutions. But I'll also just say, in the end, these are your eyes. You have two eyes, and ultimately you want what's best for them. You want these eyes to last you a lifetime. And we know for sure that daily disposables offer the best outcome for your long-term eye health. So this is truly the healthier option, even if it costs just a little bit more compared to the alternative. Storage, there is going to be more to store with daily disposable contact lenses because you're having much more compared to reusable contact lenses. That's something to help patients just kind of set expectations for. And then really probably the biggest drawback to daily disposables is the parameter availability. There are amazing options available in parameters for daily disposables right now, but they are still lacking compared to reusable if patients have really high levels of myopia or hyperopia, if they have very high astigmatism. Maybe they have oblique astigmatism. And then the biggest one for me is I just cannot wait until there is a multifocal toric option available. That's probably where that's what I'm most excited to come available. Now let's go into prescribing silicone hydrogel versus hydrogel. Does it really matter with daily disposables? I mean, this is the healthiest modality for the eyes. Do I need to for sure prescribe a SiHy, or is it okay to have a hydrogel? So silicone hydrogel was introduced to help improve oxygen diffusion to the cornea and prevent any sort of hypoxia-related events. And in general, it's prescribed about 3 times more than hydrogels are. And in this particular study, they interviewed eye care practitioners, and about 90% agreed that SiHy one-day lenses provided better long-term eye health for patients over hydrogel and provided an overall better wearing experience for patients versus hydrogel lenses. But when you look at comparing the two in terms of their ocular health outcomes, they are equivalent with ocular health outcomes, given that they are worn in an open eye environment. So in an open eye environment, the hydrogel lenses were found to provide enough oxygen to the cornea to prevent hypoxic events to the cornea, neovascularization, hyperemia, etc. But in a closed eye environment, SiHys are a better option. So if you know that your patient is going to nap in their lenses, or maybe they have a schedule where they really need to sleep overnight in their lenses, then a silicone hydrogel daily disposable would be a better option. In this particular study, 75% of subjects accidentally napped in their lenses, and 28% slept overnight in their lenses. And accidents happen, so maybe if you know that that's the case, perhaps a silicone hydrogel lens would be a better option. In the hydrogel wears, just about 1 hour of closed eye wear can result in swelling of the cornea. And there's a potential for hypoxic events to occur when sleeping long-term in hydrogel lenses. So let's go over a few practice management pearls. If you have a new contact lens wearers, just go ahead and fit them in a daily disposable right out of the gate. They really don't know any different, and you're going to set them up with the best possible option if they're a candidate. So you can talk to them about things like, you're going to put a fresh pair of lenses on every day. You just throw it away at the end of the day. There's nothing to worry about. They are very convenient. You can discuss that contact lens wearers in general. Daily disposable wearers tend to be more satisfied with their contact lenses than reusable. And that as they're learning how to handle these contact lenses, if you lose a daily disposable or tear it, or maybe it's been dropped on the floor too many times as you're trying to learn to put these in your eyes, you don't have to sweat it. You don't have to have this lens last a month. You just toss it and go ahead and try a new one. Part-time wearers, so these are wearers that are wearing their contact lenses every once in a while, leaving their contact lenses in a case for, days to weeks before they wear the contact lens again. So in some of those studies that we looked at, we saw that over just a 24-hour period, we were having these toxic effects to the cornea. So you can imagine that after these lenses have soaked in the eye for days to weeks, what kind of effects they may have to the eye. Also, we worry about the disinfection efficacy with contact lenses that are stored in solutions over a long period of time. Another thing to consider is that it may be cheaper for patients that are wearing lenses part-time to just go ahead and, buy a 30-pack of daily disposable contact lenses versus their annual supply of monthly lenses, and we'll likely see less complications from these types of wears because of that. We already talked a little bit about traveling. We don't have to lug around any multi-purpose solution. You just take a strip of however many days that you need for your travel time. Safety of contact lens wearers with children. Children are great candidates for contact lens wearers. And they really have shown to be very safe wearers of contact lenses and their compliance and ocular health outcome. So Dr. Walleen, their study concluded that age should not be a primary determinant for fitting children in contact lenses because they really do very well. They also concluded that you might want to more strongly consider a daily disposable contact lens because it eliminates the need for those extra steps of cleaning and disinfecting reusable lenses. This was a large clinical study that looked at 963 children over 2,700 years of wear. And you can see the incidence of events that occurred, like papillary conjunctivitis, keratitis, Claire, peripheral ulcerations. They were all very, very low in terms of their risk with 8 to 12-year-old wear. Similarly, in this study, they found that the younger children were actually safer wearers compared to their older counterparts, but concluded the study was saying a daily disposable modality should be preferred because we're not having two of the major risk factors at play with solutions and storage cases. And we know that the younger that we start children in contact lenses that are specifically for myopia control, the better impact it has. So if we look at the spherical equivalent over time versus age, you can see that a 5-year-old that's a -0.5 diopter, really the earlier that they could start myopia control, the better, because at the age of 11, some of these kids were a -5.5 versus some of their older counterparts where they're going to ultimately have less myopia as they get older. Contact lenses also help with self-perception of the children, where their physical appearance, athletic competence, and social acceptance self-perceptions were improved. So really think about asking the right questions when you have reusable wearers in your chair. Don't ask things like, so everything going okay with your contact lenses? Because you're going to get yeah, everything's fine. And we all know that fine means feelings I'm not expressing. So don't ask those types of questions. Ask questions like, how do your contact lenses feel day 1 versus day 20? Do you notice a difference in how your contact lenses feel, how you're seeing out of your contact lenses? Ask things like, how often do your contact lenses feel dry, irritated, itchy? And if there's anything that they would change about their contact lenses. And then lastly, for the practice management pearls is figure team members in Daily Disposables and help them be testimonials to how great this technology is. So as we wrap up, we'll just talk a little bit about some of the future technology on the horizon with contact lenses. The AccuPHOO TheraVision with ketotifen is now available in Japan and Canada. And so that has some allergy reducing capabilities. There's also steroid eluting contact lenses and glaucoma drug eluting contact lenses. So the ketotifen, it has 0.02 milligrams of ketotifen within the contact lens. It is a daily disposable. And they found that it was very comparable to topical drug delivery. And they assess patient symptoms after 15 minutes of wear and after 12 hours of wear, and found that patients' ocular itching scores were reduced very well. And the benefits of this is that, you don't have some of the preservatives in some of the drops, the anti-allergy drops. So they were tolerated very well in the study. There's also some really cool technology on the horizon, IOP monitoring. We all know the standard of care for looking at pressures in glaucoma is tonometry, but that's just one measurement in time, and it's in an upright position. And we know that glaucoma is affected by all of the pressures throughout the day. So this gives readings throughout the day. The thing that's around the patient's eye is an antenna that transmits the signal from the contact lens to a device that shows, thousands of data points over a 24-hour period. And it does this by looking at the changes in the corneal curvature. So just 3 micrometers of change in the corneal curvature is related to 1 millimeter of mercury of pressure change. And then there are, several biomarkers of pathophysiological processes that happen in the body and in the eye. And there are several contact lenses that are in the pipeline that would be able to assess some of these biomarkers and to help us to identify early in a disease process that maybe this patient needs to be monitored more closely for things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, some of these very devastating diseases. So really exciting technology that's available for us. So overall, I think that we have some really amazing things to look forward to in the future. We have really great technology now, and I hope that after going through some of the advantages and that we have with Daily Disposables from both a health standpoint, but also for patient happiness, for practitioner happiness, that we'll all prescribe more and more Daily Disposable contact lenses. So thank you guys so much for joining tonight. It was my pleasure to be with you all this morning, and for some of you this evening. Here is my email if we aren't able to get to any of your questions, and I would be happy to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ariel. I would say you covered everything on Daily Disposable, even the technologies of the future. So we know what's coming up, so we can be prepared on, what do we need to look for when it comes to the future technology. So thank you so much for going through everything with us today.
Time you. It's exciting stuff, isn't it?
That's right. And it's really important because I think in this time where we are in, patients really know what they are looking for as well. So it's always good to be updated ourselves in terms of knowing what's coming, because if you may not know, your patients may know, right? And they'll come and ask you, is this what you have? And you are like, I don't know if this is available,
sure.
Right? They have the proof now with the technology as well. So I think it's really important for us to keep updated. And thank you so much for kind of having those, the ending slides, which are also really very important.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Great. Before we begin, I'm just going to ask you one very probably a thought-provoking question. It's always, and I think you did cover up in your talk as well. It's about the cost factor, because people do think that daily disposables are costlier compared to the reusable counterparts. Maybe you can tell us, how do you come up with talking to your patients in terms of, are there any kind of keywords which you think we must be using so that they get convinced that we are not talking about the expense part, it's more of the healthier part? So any keywords which you may want to give us today?
Yeah, so I think first, anytime that you talk cost with the patient, we really weren't trained as eye care practitioners to sell things. So we're almost apologetic when it comes to talking cost with patients, even when we know that it's the best option for them. I'm the same way with myopia management. I mean, myopia management, it's going to cost more than what they're accustomed to paying, but I know that this is the best standard of care for them. So with daily disposables, I really focus on the health of contact lenses, the daily disposable contact lenses, or I really try to cater the conversation to what may be important to them. Maybe I know that they suffer from allergies or dry eye, and I'll say these are great options to make it to where you aren't going to have these types of symptoms anymore, or if you do, they're to a much less severity. And so you really focus on the benefits to them for their particular circumstance. And then you might not even need to talk about cost. So when I have the cost conversation, it's because it was prompted by the patient. And they're asking me for it. So if they say, well, how much are these going to cost? I'm getting 30 times the contact lenses, that's going to cost more, right? And we'll kind of go through, yes, when you compare that annual supply that you would purchase today of daily disposables versus the monthly wear, on paper, it looks a lot more, but you have to think about things that you're paying for that you don't think about right now, like your $150 for multi-purpose solutions. We also have this rebate that's available for you if you guys have that option available that has significant cost savings as well.
Right.
And then, you just let the patient know that the benefits ultimately outweigh any sort of cost factors to them.
Right. And I think you did also mention a lot of benefits in terms of using for traveling and kind of occasional wear. So maybe do you really do this? Like, I'm just trying to see, if you have a reusable patient contact lens wearer, would you also recommend them to have a special daily disposable with them so that they can use it for specific events or travel? So they have both the modalities with them, and then eventually probably they say, oh, daily disposable seems to be much better, I'll now convert together. So would that be a starting point in conversation?
Yeah, I have to say I haven't done that before. That's a really good idea to consider for maybe they do, some sort of outdoor activities and you give them some daily disposables to be able to use. What I typically do is I will have trials that I'll say, hey, you know what? You don't need to make a decision today, but I'm confident that after you have a 2-week trial, for example, of these daily disposable lenses, you'll see how much better it is to put a fresh contact lens every day. So you tell me what you want to do, and we would be happy to cater to that. And I'd say more often than not, when they call to finalize their prescription, they switch over to dailies.
Right. Yeah. Great. And I'm just taking up the one question which have just popped up on the chat. And I think you did cover this as well, but probably you want to reinitiate on if there are any studies which talks about the safety of disposable lenses with, reusable lenses in children below 12 years. I think you did talk about it when you were talking about the MySight lens, but if you want to add on anything else.
Yeah, so there is the Recess study and the Clay study, which were really large studies that were done on the safety of contact lens wear in children. And they looked at ages below 12 years old.
Right.
And they both concluded that, a daily disposable option would be preferred given that we're not having to deal with cases or contact lens solutions.
Right. Yeah. So these are the two important ones. And I think one of the study which you also mentioned is about the myopia management, the MySight study, which now has come out with huge data where they talk about the daily disposable versus the other modalities had lesser events to report than compared to the reusable lenses. So a lot of studies are available and we are now inclining towards the daily disposable modality, and a lot of the designs are also coming up as well. I'm still waiting for toric reusable here in the Asian market. We don't have toric multifocal reusable here. As you were saying, you're waiting for toric daily disposable. We are still waiting for toric reusable. That would be something which will be.
I'll send you some.
Right.
But yeah, going back to that MySight study, it was pretty cool to see that so a thing that I didn't mention is that over 6 years of MySight wear, 23% of the participants didn't progress at all. And so when you look at the risk factors of myopia and high levels of myopia compared to the really low risk factors of contact lens wear, it's the risk to benefit ratio is much in favor of contact lens wear in children, especially obviously daily disposables, compared to just letting their myopia increase over time.
Right. Yeah. And there's one question which has just popped up is, would you want to advise daily disposable lenses to be worn for swimming? Do you tend to do that, or is it something around that lines you want to share with us?
Right. So there is a scientific answer to this, and then there's a clinical answer to this.
Right.
Science shows us that you do not want to expose contact lenses to water at all. It's a high risk of, things like acanthamoeba, but all of those other nasty things that are in the water. But clinically, if I have a patient that has exposure to water with their daily disposable lenses, in my mind, if they throw away that contact lens, maybe put some artificial tears in their eyes to rinse their eyes and then put on a fresh daily disposable lens, to me, that seems like it would be safe. I have yet to have that bite me in the butt yet. So I have to give both of those answers of what I would say.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So we probably would not go one step ahead and recommend it, but probably we'll have to monitor them more closely rather than somebody who is not using it. And that brings up to one question which has just come. It's asking on the recommendation of follow-up schedule for daily disposables. So do you tend to see them more closely, or do you tend to see them less often compared to your reusable lens wearers?
I definitely will see daily disposable wearers less frequently.
Okay.
So when you think about a cost perspective from that perspective too, if you have a reusable wearer and maybe you're concerned about their ocular health and you're having to see them more in practice, well, that should go into their cost kind of analysis as well. So if I have a patient that is a daily disposable wearer, that is a child, I'm seeing them more frequently depending on that particular child. At the very minimum, I'm seeing them every 6 months. If it's a child that I'm worried a little bit about their maturity or their hygiene, or their levels of myopia, maybe I'm following them every 3 months.
Right. So that would also, it's not just the daily disposable, it's also why you are giving them the lens. It's what's the purpose, right? So if it's a kid for myopia management, you'll see them slightly frequently compared to the others, correct? Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Awesome, great. So I think with that, we have taken all questions which have come up on the chat. So I would say thank you so much, ma'am, for that wonderful talk and taking us through entire the information about daily disposables and also the future ahead for us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I had a great time and look forward to when I can see you guys next.
Sure. Thank you. We do have session planned within the next few weeks. Please stay tuned onto your emails and all our social media and also our website for more updates. Until then, take care, be safe, and I'll see you around in the next session. Bye-bye. Thank you, Dr. Ariel. Bye-bye. Have a good Sunday.
Bye. Thank you as well. Good night.
Yeah.